be a bit fast. Try that. Maybe one faster. We'll just keep going until that nylon comes out of there. Perfect. Just over at the mill now. What I'm going to do is just mill off one of the points on the hexagon here. That way it'll sit down lower in the groove of that part we're trying to straighten. It's probably going to be hot. No, not too bad. Now the idea is the flat side goes down in there. I stick my nut on here. All the way up. What I'm going to make now is a little tube that fits over there, and I can use that as I wind the nut up. It'll push against here. Hopefully it won't pop out. Just go and select some material. You guys wait there. As it turns out, I've got a little bit of brass tube that's pretty close to the right size already. So all I'll need to do is either part it off or face it off to 15mm, whichever's going to be easiest. Just to show everyone I'm not a chicken, I'm going to try and part it off. I've got that gripped fairly tight in the chuck. I don't want to grip it too tight or I'll squash it. And I've set my depth to 10mm, so I'll cut off about 10mm there. Again, this isn't critical because it'll allow a little bit of clearance. The parting off tool's got a bit of positive rake on it there. Positive rake is always an adventure when you're trying to cut brass. You should be flat or actually negative, but we'll give it a go. Now the good side of the job is in the back. I'll just double check my measurements. So that's right on 15mm or 14.5. So we should be good. Now generally speaking, if you get chatter, you want to go slower. I'm on the slower speed here without engaging the back gear, but hey, you guys may as well see back gears. Just to give you a bit better idea of what the back gears are, you can see these two gears here. They're the ones that swivel into play when you use this lever. So now this gear is in mesh with this gear, and that gear is in mesh with this gear, and because the two screws are still in, or the pin and the screw, that means it's locked up solid. So let's just pull that pin out again. Sometimes it's a bit easier if I get a screwdriver behind it. Sometimes it isn't. There we go. Around to the other side, we'll just undo the screw. Not quite enough. So now nothing's connected. This gear is no longer connected to the pulleys, and these gears are out of mesh. But when I put that one in, I'm not going to be able to wind it by hand because it's too tight. But you'll see now that this gear no longer spins at the same speed as that pulley. Nothing going to fly out and get me. It's a bit hard to tell when it's going fast. You can see it as it slows down. So that's how back gears work, simple as that. Quite a handy invention, and when you've got it in low gear, it gives you a huge amount of power because the motor's still spinning at 1500 RPM or whatever the motor spins at. And these things crank that speed down to, I'll just have a look at what the lowest speed is. I figured out what the speeds are a few years ago, I suppose. There we go on there. So when the slowest speed is going to be 23 RPM. That's with my electric motor does 1435 RPM. That's on 240 volt, I think 50 hertzes. How it is, and you watch how slow that goes. So that's probably too slow. Now I'll need to move the belt up a couple of cogs. Let's see how that looks. Still pretty slow, but we'll just see what happens. One thing I haven't done yet. Put the oil on the bearings. Two little oilers there. Just be nice to the old days. Go. So back gear's back out again. Now we'll just get to line up these pins. Not quite. There we go, that's one end. And the other one. You can screw that in. The back gear is back out, and now we're pretty good. What I'll do now is I'll take my parting tool out and chamfering tool back in and unlock the saddle without hitting you in the leg. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Let's break the edge so we don't cut ourselves. There we go. Now let's see if we can bend that thing, or unbend it, as the case may be. Even if the brass makes a bit of a dent down there in that curve, I can just file it out. A little bit of a dip won't matter over that length. The main part is that it makes good contact along the majority of that surface, and it slides nicely. At the moment it almost goes in onto the track, but it just catches a bit because of that bend. Anyway, I'll just get a couple of spanners. As it turns out, I don't have any spanners that big. So we'll get that somewhere in the middle with the flat side down. Let's see if this works. Straight edge. Let's see if I can see a gap down in there. I can. Not a small gap, but it's less. I'll probably have to go past a little bit because it's going to spring back. That's almost straight. Fair bit of force on there now. Oh, a little gap in about the middle there. A fraction more. Probably bending it about as far as it's going to go. I've still got a small gap under my ruler there. It's gone downhill a bit. Now a fraction more. Maybe move it down a little bit. Not too bad on the graunch marks. Down this way a bit. I might just clean that up in there. See if I made any difference. That needs to go right down till it fits on there. So we're just hanging up on something still. Still quite an up there. It's about where that scratch mark is. Less. I think it's flat now. I'll go one more, see if I can snip it. It's flat now. sure if it's going to spring back or not. Probably file it, or can't really machine it. Anyway, I'll fiddle around with that and bring you back in a minute. Getting very close. I can plonk it on here and it just rocks somewhere about there. Now, it could be this hacky there. What I've got here is some bearing glue. No, that says gasket maker. That's the wrong tube. Now it says blue bearing marker. Let's just pop some of that on there. Not going to need much. Spread it out a bit. It's the next day. Just getting back to this project. Basically what I need to do, if you look down here, you can see there's an arc or a curve or a radius, if you like, in that section there, and that's the bit that needs to be nice and parallel so it can slide along the other piece. Now, I don't have anything that I can cut that radius with. I was thinking about making up some kind of fly cutter. That sounded like a fair bit of work. Then I thought, I remember this old drill I had, an old straight shank drill. I think it used to be 1 inch. I was practicing grinding in my tool and cutter grinder, so I've ground it down from that. It was really stuffed before. What I've done now is ground a radius on there, on one side, and I've got a fair bit of clearance back down that way, so as the tool spins, the first thing to touch is going to be the cutting edge. Nothing else will touch. And you can see there I'm getting pretty close to the right radius there. I don't need to go right down there, I don't think. So what I'll do now is I'll just finish off grinding that. I'll hold it up to the light and then give it a bit of a stone to give it a nice finish. And then I'll just grind the other edge right out the way. So it's only going to be a single point cutter. There's no way that I'll manage to get both of these to be exactly the same. It's just too difficult. But I only need one edge, and literally I've just got to skim a little part out of the middle there where it's still bent, and not touch the sides at all. Now I'll just hold it back up to the light. Won't be able to catch that on the camera. I'll see what gaps there are. Just touching just in the middle there. I think what I'll do now is I'll get a stone or a diamond hone and just shine that up a little bit and get a nice surface. Looking at that, I should have plenty of clearance, maybe a little bit more up here. Anything rubs, it's not going to work. Now I can just also grind that edge down. You won't be needing that. It's going to take a little while. Probably going to have to grind a fair bit more off that, so I won't bore you with the details.